This is your monthly news segment. Each and every month, the most important, the most... Right, let's go again. The outtakes he's going to have are going to be brilliant. Okay. This is your monthly news segment. 20 minutes, jam-packed with watch news, with Justin and Emily. Emily, welcome to that. Lead us off from the top. What we got?
All right, number one.
Yes.
We got to start big. It's Greubel.
Greubel.
It's Greubel with the Handmade.
I've not heard anything about Greubel for so many years. What's the news?
Yeah, so the news is the Handmade 2. So it's the Handmade 1, which was, the concept behind it is it's pretty much all, I think 95% handmade. Mm-hmm. So no machining whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Famously worn by Zuckerberg quite recently. That's the Handmade 1. Handmade 2, I think it's 96% handmade.
And it's eye-wateringly expensive as well.
I think it's like 500, I think 560 Swiss franc. But I think the Handmade 1 was 900. I could be wrong there, but I actually think it's cheaper in relative terms.
Very few being made.
2 a year, apparently.
Yeah,
apparently.
or 3, I thought. But either way,
Up
very
to,
few.
Up to.
You're never quite clear.
That's a niche market, you know? That's a very niche market. But anyway, the news is that's come out. Now, I love an independent. That's my current stage of life. But really before, I don't know, maybe Zuck, maybe a little bit of that, I don't think Greubel had a place in watch culture in the sense that you really had to be an independent collector. And then like within that had to get quite niche. And it's quite a niche design language. Whereas now, even my non-watch collecting friends, or certainly people I would regard not a nerd, are talking about Greubel. That's big. I think that's exciting.
And it's almost as if they planned it, because they had the book launch, which came out
same day as the Handmade 2.
And you've done some digging into the numbers behind the social reach and
so I had a look at that. So actually it was Matt who had a look at it. So the 5 days before Zuck wore the Handmade 1, they were in a net loss of followers, including the day of and the 4 days after. So those 5 days, they were up by 3,000 followers. Bear in mind, the 5 days before, all they did was lose followers apart from one day.
And they only need to sell 2 or 3 watches to make it all worthwhile.
Well, exactly. And what's really interesting about it, you could say 3,000 followers, what's that? I think they have about 180,000. I can't actually remember. But it's not when you get to that level, it's not about converting. Each one is not a lead. It's about your place in the culture. It's about the aspiration. It's about, that is the sort of, Ferrari or whatever like niche thing it is. So those 3,000 followers, for me, it's not about great, they're going to sell more watches. It's about they're in the culture, they're important, they're relevant. I think that's really exciting to see what Greubel do with that. It's a big opportunity. I
admire the whole ethos of the Handmade series into its second series. But the aesthetic, people have pushed back on a little bit, and they said, this doesn't look like a Greubel, it doesn't feel like a Greubel. Does it really matter? I mean, none of us are, very few of us are ever going to be in the market for a Greubel. But it's interesting. And of course, they're now recently independent from
2022.
And they've extended the manufacture. The manufacture is actually beautiful. They're extending that. They're making it bigger. It's interesting times for Greubel. And that leads us on to Zuck. And we've debated whether Zuck is newsworthy or not. Is Zuck newsworthy? Guys, you've got to let us know. I mean, he has been everywhere. And as you say, what he does do is he takes watch culture and watch collecting and the idea of watches being cool, and he exports that to a lot more people, which has got to be a good thing. By all accounts, and rumours are, we're in this segment, we're all about rumours, and I gather some vicious rumours. We've heard that Watchbox are the ones, Watchbox or 1912 or the 1916 company are the ones, in fact, behind the scenes, reaping the rewards of his newly found passion. Whomever is advising him, we can say, is doing a stellar job.
Wonderful taste.
But equally, on the other side, does it take away from the joy of the chase that we all experience in watches? We need to typically buy and sell to make things work. Is it unfair that he's come in and sort of spoiled the fun in some ways?
You know what? I think the first few, I remember, do you know what really got me was when he wore the Chelsea, the Kingsman. Well, that's quite cool. I remember when that came out. Super niche.
The knife,
exactly. Really cool. And the first few, really exciting. You saw him in, a few Jaunes and
sport line.
Exactly, which I think was kind of the first one on Debutune. But now
and then a Havana. He had a Havana at one point early on.
You just skip the queue, which is fine. But I don't know. I just don't. I find it not interesting anymore.
The Octo. Let's not forget the Octo.
Yes, badass.
QR code.
Really cool. Really insane watches. And if you've got all the money in the world, I mean, I think there was something stupid like, I'm going to save up this year for my, £1 million watch. And within 2 seconds, he's like, saved up, done it, And then, whatever. When I regard him a collector, he's not giving me signs he's a collector. He's somebody that is interested, perhaps, in the hobby and has newly found it. But he's also kind of rebranded himself, right?
Of course, he's gone on that aggressive, hostile, and there's been advisors for that, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's cool that watches are part of that.
Yeah.
But, it doesn't make him a collector just because he's on his own journey, right? We're all on our own journeys.
And this is very true.
Objectively, the pushback would be, hey, we can't judge where someone is in that process.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, he is buying and wearing. He's wearing watches, and he's learning as he goes. And he's responding Christ almighty, newsworthy
Which
information.
I love. I think it's amazing.
I got a response from the man.
Whoever gets that Zuck interview first, what I actually think that'd be quite telling is he doesn't shy away from interviews.
No.
He's recently on Joe Rogan. Like, he's in popular... I keep talking about culture, but it's so important. That's all this thing is culture. The first interview he does, where he talks about watches, I hope to God he does, because it will signal to me, at least to me, that he wants to talk about it. Whereas, like, can he actually sit down and go, right, guys, I got to talk to you. This is why.
Someone made a comment the other day on a group that I'm part of who said, look, the reality is the guy is a savant, right? He's a savant. He's going to pick up this information and he's going to have the insights really, really quick.
Yep.
He'll have the nuance. And the other thing is, I'm a believer that you only know watches when you own them and wear them.
Yep.
Now, that's cost me a lot in time and money, but I feel that I've got a very good understanding about the watch I've had in the past that I no longer have because I've owned them and worn them. Now, I think he's going to have the combination of both his brain and knowledge and that sponge. And he's going to have the wearing aspect. So it's going to come together quite quickly, is my sense.
And that's why I think it'd be a cool interview, is that how cool would it be if I said to you right now, have anything you want?
I've already approached, by the way, I have actually approached a dear friend of mine who works at Meta.
Okay.
And she's lovely. And I did say, hey, could we pitch
Get me that
So
interview.
she mentioned that the MD of Instagram, he's a huge watch guy, vintage watch guy. Okay. And she might, do you follow him on Instagram? No. We'll link him up.
Okay.
But he's always wearing something different. Whenever he does the video to camera for the updates on the software, he's always wearing something interesting.
I know exactly.
Adam
something.
Moraes. And he's always got an old Nautilus or an Aquanaut or a World Time
vintage
or something.
Guy.
Yeah, he's vintage or old Rolex Daytona.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, that's probably enough because we are under time constraints. We're in this for 20 minutes and we really want to be under 20 minutes. So that's the news update on Zuck. What else? And we've got a couple of brands coming out punching for 2025.
Real strong for a January.
Who have we had? We've had
Vacheron. I mean, look, I'm relatively new to the Vacheron world. Coming out in January with a hotly anticipated 222 in steel, blue dial.
Did you see that coming? Did you imagine that they would do a steel so quickly?
Maybe not so quickly. That was impressive. Yeah, I thought, look, also, I'm not, the way I'm IWC and I can talk about their history and really, oh my God, if they reissued the Da Vinci 3755, that's amazing, because I don't have that same passion for the 222. I love Vacheron, but don't have that same passion for the 222. So I'm probably not the right person to understand why, and I'll hold my hands up there. But what I do think is really cool is everyone I know that's in the Vacheron world and loves Vacheron is obsessed with it, wants it. It'll never be the yellow gold. For me, personally, I think the yellow gold has that sort of cultural status. But yeah, I saw it coming. But what was really cool is... I saw it coming. I felt it would come. But what is really cool is doing that in Jan. You've got it's the 270th year. 270.
And that's something to sink your teeth into, because it's like 270. What's the average lifespan of a business in the UK?
That's good.
2 and a bit years, maybe 3 years max. On average. 270 years. It's
wild,
quite something. I remember their 260th, and it was sort of just as I was getting into the watch world, wow, it's incredible, really. And I gather, I've just got back, so I've just been out to see them, and I've seen some of the novelties coming at Watches and Wonders yesterday, and it's really very much in line with their ethos of classic with a twist. So I think people are going to be impressed with that.
That's exciting.
And I gather there's much more to come as well throughout the year. But it's so cool to see them coming out, all guns blazing, swinging for the fences early on. They knew that was going to be a bomb. And I feel like it sucked the oxygen out of a lot of other brands. And they had to move the embargo a little bit because there was another cheeky leak out there. It's difficult to manage these things in the digital world. So they brought it forward a bit. Anyway, there we are. So that's the 222.
That was big. And also what was cool about that is I've really discovered this about Vacheron, having recently, spent more time with them, is they're actually quite fun and playful. You take the Holy Trinity, as I've become more disillusioned with, AP and Patek, both which had buying history with. Vacheron had this thing where the oldest continuous watchmaker, but you meet the people there and they're really great. And they have this ability to just sort of, the people that they surround themselves with the brand, I think speak to their brand really well.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of respect for that. And I think that I'm excited to see what they do in April. That's going to be, it genuinely fills me with excitement.
That watch though, the 222, I know we disagree slightly because you're not a huge fan of the steel.
Yep.
We both love the yellow gold.
Yes.
The yellow speaks in a whole different language.
Well, yep.
But 37 mil, it wears a bit bigger, and it really is. And I know I might get butchered for it, but unisex to the core. That is a unisex watch that I've seen a few of the I mean, the woman who's head of like design and complications there, she was wearing it yesterday. Laurent Pervez, the new CEO, he was wearing it.
That's cool.
We were wearing it, and it felt and looked brilliant.
Yep.
Hand on heart. On all of them, on everyone. So I genuinely think it's found a real sweet spot size-wise that's going to be a real winner for them in the future. How it will affect the overseas is a question I have. There is a step change. It's a bit sportier, the overseas. It's a bit more like a sports watch that you can really thrash.
Yep.
Whereas this is definitively sort of sports chic, whatever that means.
For sure.
Whatever that means.
You will define new category.
Yeah. Next up, moving on to others coming out swinging for the fences, and it's our friends with deep pockets at LVMH. And they had their watch week, and we've seen Louis Vuitton particularly coming out strong.
Doing some big
and
things.
we both agreed before we even talked about agreeing on anything that convergence is a killer. Again, 37 mil, same size as the 222. They're listening. Yeah, they're listening to what people want. There's
another brand that I think just went a bit bigger. Their big square watches. I think not everyone's listening.
Of course,
don't know who that might be.
Where's Mr. Stern? He's on next week's news segment to join us and talking about that. That's right. That's right. I mean, look, Rolex as well. You know, a millimeter here and a millimeter there on sports models, but yet we've seen some brands really taking note of that real hardcore collector community. And Jean Arnault, I've got to say, he has not paid a sausage for this support on this podcast, but I'd love to support the fact that he is clearly a watch guy himself. He's a young guy in his 20s. He's heading up the LVMH, you know, the Louis Vuittons of the world, and the watch category. He's really listening. He's really plugged into the community, and particularly that sort of sweeping hours, that wandering hours convergence. Not a jump hour, but as you said earlier, it's interesting because it looks like nothing else. And it's designed almost to be beaten up in that patina. Of course, it's going to get scratched to hell. But I did see ones with gear shade on the
beautiful. So
that's super cool.
They have really lent into fine watchmaking, proper watchmaking. Yes, they've got deep pockets, but it's hard to. I mean, if you go back 5 years at Louis Vuitton, I don't really, unless you get into their really high end stuff, which they've actually always secretly done and done really well. No one was, they weren't relevant. They have forced their way into relevancy by making great watches that are really interesting, really cool. I can't wait to try them on. I can't wait to see them. They're now in the pipeline. It's sort of like we mentioned before, the Chanel jumper that, you know, it's got that Gaultier like design language. You look at the movement.
Caliber 1. They don't like referencing. Interestingly enough, they don't like referencing Roman.
Really?
Yeah, he's very much part of I believe he's heading up a new location, a new facility that's going to really push the whole group's mechanical caliber production to another level. But they're keen to have that IP, which is what it is.
But you flip that thing over and it screams him.
Insane.
It's his design language.
All the aesthetic,
everything about it, which I think is really cool. But sort of coming back to Louis Vuitton, I think they've done a similar thing, you know, not necessarily in the sense that they've got an independent in, but they've made cool watches.
Well, that Fabrique du Temps now feels like it's a real hub for, and they are sponsoring the independent. You know, they're awards.
For sure, exactly,
you know, which we have to call it. You know, that feels like the GPHG awards in the sense that it's, you know, we've had lots of colleagues of ours who we admire a great deal, friends of ours, collectors out there, people from the community on the panel of judges. That feels like a step backwards in some way, because it's like not. And by the way, I'm not bitter that I'm not on it.
Definitely is.
But I really like John. I really like what he's doing. I love what they're doing. Endless pockets, producing cool shit. And the world timer as well that rotates is seriously cool.
It's very cool.
But that whole thing is a bit rotten to the core. And that's kind of, that's almost synonymous with the GPHG and others, which is just like, guys, we need a new system to work. That's not getting people to vote who are being supported to be there. We're in a phase of just getting our heads around these types of things, I think.
What's your core issue with it?
Well, it's just that these people all support the brands.
Yeah.
They support, you know, the group.
It's like marking your own homework.
Yeah, marking your own homework. And there's a force, like everyone had to publish it on the same day on Instagram, you know, having that tile with their face on it. And it's like, okay, cool. You know, he did the collab with Rexep, which was really interesting. they're trying to be part of the culture, the watch collecting culture, which we can only support. Which you've touched on already, is so vital for brands like Greubel and Roger Smith and others who make amazing product, but need to be part of that broader conversation.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually, and that does, I think, feeds, the kind of the point of this whole news thing is there is a lack of maybe transparency in some ways,
for sure.
And ability to be honest. And we were talking about this just before, that people assume that people assume that you're paid or that you're saying something. I would always say, truly, we were just saying before, about some things we do. It's the Hermes. It's actually because we love it.
We are going, guys.
That is it.
We are going after this video is published. We hope this video will be published very soon, in February, early February 2025. We are off to Hermes. So maybe this is newsworthy. We are off to Hermes. We're looking at we're going to go to the manufacturer. It's not Vacheron, I don't believe. So Vacheron, the movement making facility that they own. I don't think it's Vacheron. I think it's another location for watchmaking. Nonetheless, we're just fired up about it. They're not paying us a sausage to be there, but they will be paying for lunch.
Yeah.
And they'll be paying for the flights, which we'll be absolutely clear about.
Totally transparent.
But there we are, guys. I think the industry needs it. I think the industry 100%. Needs that transparency. And we, as the media side, collector side, enthusiast side, we can be that little bit of early change. And
for sure. And I'm excited about that. Like I said, it's not paid. And it literally came off the back of us talking in this room about...
kind enough to come out.
That's really cool. Exactly. I got excited by it. And then we've talked about it so much that it's just happened. And that, I think, it's a beautiful thing. And I love being honest about it. Like you said, the flights are paid for, but it is pure passion.
Absolutely. Right, we're moving on to the next subject. Now, you've also done some number crunching on another subject. So just remind us. So can we just touch on, before we get to this very, very important segment, which we know is going to be probably the favourite of the audience, or we're hoping will be favourite. You did the numbers on that Handmade one, just going back, and you also looked at the numbers for a Roger Smith. Just give us those numbers one more time. I know we're going back here, but can you remember the number of hours that it took to make?
Yes. So this was actually, do you know what? I've got to confess, so it was Todd Levin who messaged me about this. And I thought, that's a really good point, and I need to think about it, and I haven't had time, so I thought this is the perfect. I did wonder what numbers you're going to ask me about then.
I'm going to ask you about some other numbers.
Okay, that's coming. So the Greubel, now this is where I do want to question it a little bit. It says it's 5,000 hours to create the watch from start to finish. It's hand finished as well. It's not overly complicated. I think it's time only. But then, George Daniels, the original independent.
Handmade original.
Literally, the guy made everything. So all but 5 components of the Greubel are made by hand. So that the George Daniels watch is entirely made by one man. And, there was no Roger Smith at the time. One man and his workbench and his tools. And he said it took him 2,500 hours and a year. I'm struggling to understand. And also the Greubel is handmade or hand assembled by one watchmaker as well. So what's the double amount of time? Maybe there's a level of finishing to it. I don't know, but that's double. I can't work that out.
Reading Mark's story on Hidinki, which I thought was great, because there's not a great deal of information. They haven't provided a great deal of information. So maybe again, it's the smoke and mirrors thing where it's like, let's not share too much. So just thought we'd leave that out there, because you've done the numbers there, which is interesting. And if anyone wants to put some colour to that, please let us know. But then you've also done some very, very important number crunching on Bonnie Blue. Now, she is sweeping the world's social media. She's even on bloody Morning Breakfast show. Bonnie Blue, for those who don't know, is quite frankly bringing the whole female population globally into disrepute, I would say, with her behaviour. As a woman, how do you feel about Bonnie's performance and general atmosphere?
Can't say I've watched the performance.
I hear the documentary she's made is actually quite well put together.
She's done a documentary?
Well, there's some... Oh, it's maybe not her, but someone's done a documentary.
Is this you confessing to watching the live stream? The 1,056 person live stream?
Film on X videos is not a documentary. No, I heard there was a documentary of some kind that was done fairly...
I have to look into it. My search history, maybe I go into incognito at that point.
What watch would Bonnie Blue... Does she wear a watch, Em, to start with? Do we know if she wears a watch?
Do you know what? I've not seen her wear a watch, but I have confessed to Googling the 1,056 in 24 hours. I haven't seen her wear a watch.
Which, based on the numbers, breaks down to...
I think it was 44 men per hour.
Which then
if you break that down, it's less. It's what, it's seconds.
Seconds.
Tracks.
Which I'm not disputing any of those gents can operate at that level. But we do need to just touch on what do we envisage she would be wearing on the wrist if she were to wear a watch? Because bearing in mind she wouldn't be wearing anything else. So for her next big performance, what should she be wearing?
I've got two in mind. I was some sort of regatta timer, but you'd need a lot more than, I think it's 4 or 5 you get in a regatta.
A big vintage Hoya, like colourful.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
A black,
you know, as soon as it goes, next,
and
move on.
Boom, and she's punching, firing.
Exactly. Or you could go for a highly waterproof diver.
A diver, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking something like that, insane, like 56mm Blancpain that came out with the thing that helium that you flip the helium. Anyway, guys, let us know, what should Bonnie Blue, God rest her soul, just been evicted from Australia, I gather.
Really?
We're in the process of being removed from Australia. Maybe that's just her marketing play, I don't know. Let us know what Bonnie Blue should be wearing on the wrist. I don't know how much time we've got left here. 23 minutes wearing. Okay, final segment. What do you got on the wrist? What are you wearing today?
You won't shock
It won't come as a surprise.
The next time we do
won't
this,
come on as a
I
surprise.
won't wear an IWC, but it's the
Mojave.
Mojave, which we now both own.
We both own.
You copied me.
Both
Let
own.
the world know.
I copied Em on
owned
this
it first.
occasion.
There might be some copying coming from me soon.
No,
But
there might be another Vacheron at some point where you're following my following suit. But anyway, we'll come to that another time. Guys, I'm wearing, and I think the embargo is just lifted on this, I'm wearing this world timer, 39mm stainless steel, Cartier style world timer from Vacheron Constantin, one of the great independents that people don't always talk about. Making their own in-house calibers. It's actually a beautiful, full caliber in the case back. Automatic caliber. Really, really nice. Fills the case beautifully. Super light on the wrist. Reminds me a little bit of Gerard Perigo WWTC world timers from the past. I'd love to have seen it in titanium, just to make it a little bit lighter. It's in collaboration with Watch Angels. Watch Angels, a club, I gather. Comes in 4 different executions. I think this is the blue dial. Crosshair on the dial. It's really, really lovely. And I don't have a world timer. I've got to say, this strap as well, I don't know what it's made of, but super supple. Oh. And this folding clasp I really like. It's something that was on the Elegant.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just for me, that's the nicest way to strap.
What's the price point?
I actually don't know what the price point is yet, because I've only just got it.
Okay.
And it's coming out shortly. So when this airs, it will be live. But I'm really, really loving it. Honestly, really, really loving it. I think Vacheron Constantin have been doing interesting things for a while, and they don't get the airtime they deserve. So there we go, Em. I think that's us. That's the new segment. That's our first new segment, guys, for the month.
Yep.
We'll come back at you in February.
We will.
Towards the end of February. God knows what you're going to think of it. Let us know your thoughts.
Cannot wait to hear thoughts. I truly cannot.
Next time we're going to have ties on. I couldn't have a tie on because I've been shaving. I cut myself. There was blood everywhere. I had a tie. Where's my tie? I had a tie.
Did you?
Oh God, it's not with me now. And we have got some makeup and some props for next time as well. So do join us then.
Thank you.
Goodbye and good night. And we've got the bells of the 9 o'clock bells from Big Ben in the background. It's goodbye from me, Justin Us.
Emily Marston signing out.
Goodbye, and it's goodbye from me. You know, on University Challenge, goodbye from me, goodbye from University College London, goodbye from Durham University, goodbye, and goodbye from me, goodbye.